Leaked US military intelligence documents suggest that special forces from NATO countries have been operating in Ukraine. According to the papers, US officials estimate that there were more than 90 special forces personnel from NATO states in Ukraine without specifying their activities or locations. The leaked intelligence also claims Serbia, the only country in Europe that's refused to sanction Russia over the war, has agreed to supply arms to Kyiv. I spoke with Velina Chakarova, who founded the geopolitical consulting firm FACE, and asked her if we should be surprised at the presence of NATO troops in Ukraine.
Not at all. In fact, I would argue that the number of those special forces is absolutely insignificant to make a difference. Second, they are not deployed on the battlefields. And third, most likely these special forces from NATO countries are probably deployed to, let's say, assist in training and equipment. Mostly, of course, it is about the training missions for the Ukrainian troops on the ground.
Right, but I appreciate you say it's not significant, but this, if it's true, would be the first evidence of the boots of NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine.
Well, once again, there are NATO and non-NATO countries that are delivering military aid to Ukraine in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations, Article 51. So Ukraine is defending itself, and they are having the right to provide this military support. So there is no surprise, once again, as I said, that we may see also special forces or let's say military personnel on the ground in Ukraine that provides this support and consulting. There is a lot of Western military equipment that is being delivered and has been delivered over the last 14 months. So Ukrainian troops need also to operate with this equipment, and you need actually to put your military personnel on the ground.
The leaks also seem to indicate that Serbia is ready to supply arms to Ukraine. Is that support, that Serbian support, likely to make a significant difference?
Not at all. It is, of course, an interesting information. First and foremost, it hasn't been confirmed 200%. As we all know, still these documents are being practically proved for their authenticity. And yet it is an interesting case. First, as we know, Serbia has a very large defense industry, has been selling a lot of arms and ammunition around the world. And they have a very, let's say, a wide range of private and public defense procurement. So in a sense, it could have been a private company supplying weapons. Also, if you think about what happened with the Bulgarian government, which in fact denied supplying weapons to Ukraine, and in fact it turned out that there was an indirect military aid coming from Bulgaria also to Ukraine.
And a quick word on the leak itself. Moscow says that this was meant to deceive Russia. The UK has questioned the accuracy of the documents, and the US is in full hunt the mole mode. What do you make of this leak?
Well, I think at least as far as we understand, and also hearing from the reactions coming from Pentagon and from US officials, most likely a large share of these documents is authentic. Of course, some parts have been already, let's say, altered for obvious reasons, for instance, for dissemination on Russian channels. The Russian reaction is very interesting. They're quite cautious right now to actually comment on that. And I think it has very much to do with this specific part of information that points to the possibility of the US to penetrate the Russian security and military system on the ground. So obviously what we understand from the documents is that the United States was and is still able to learn a lot about the military plans of the Russian army.
Thank you so much for that, geopolitical analyst Velina Chakarova from FACE. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's bring in correspondent Matthias Bollinger, who's joining us from Kyiv now. Matthias, could the claims about NATO Special Forces troops, how likely are they true, and what impact could they potentially have on the conflict?
It's very hard to assess whether they're true or not. There are only screenshots of these documents, and as far as I understand, they're also not complete screenshots of the whole document. It would not be a surprise that these troops are inside the country if this turns out to be true, because we know that military advisors, for example, have been in the country during the war. There have been training missions of NATO forces, including special forces, before the war in Ukraine. Now these trainings are not conducted in Ukraine anymore. There are sometimes missions that accompany foreign missions here, maybe staff stationed at embassies, emergency staff, etc., etc. So it's very unclear what this number refers to, whether it really refers to troops active in combat. We don't have any information on that. So I would be very careful with this information. It's very, very scarce what we know so far about it. And we were not able to obtain any confirmation or details about it so far.
Another piece of information reported from the leaked documents is Serbia reportedly agreeing to supply arms to Ukraine. If that does prove to be authentic, how could it potentially affect the battlefield?
So this would, of course, have a big impact on Serbia itself. But here in Ukraine, the main benefit of this would be that Serbia would most likely be providing Soviet-style systems, for example, ammunition for these systems, for artillery or whatever. There have been reports earlier about Serbia providing Grad rockets. This is one of the most common rocket launches used at the front lines from both sides. They're Soviet-made. Ukraine has a supply of these, but of course, as Ukraine cannot buy ammunition in Russia, the ammunition supplies are dwindling, and Serbia might be one of the countries that could supply them along with other countries in Eastern Europe. That would be the main impact of these supplies. But again, we do not know anything. First of all, we do not know whether it's true, and then we do not know about the scale of these. So it's most likely not a game changer in this war.
Matthias Bollinger in Kyiv, thank you.